Well, hello everybody. Welcome back with me, Chantal, your hostess, definitely with the mostest awesome guests and viewers. And another one of those amazing guests is the very special Holly Baglio, who we will be chatting to in just a few minutes. We're going to be looking inside the black files. And Holly, we're going to be talking about her journey as an ex MK Ultra slave, involved in the Montauk projects. So much, I'm kind of like, there's so much I want to say about these amazing survivors, but then I also feel like my voice doesn't really do what she has to say any justice because obviously I've had a few off-air conversations with her, and it's a mind boggle. I was going to be a little bit more rude than that, but yeah, I think let Holly just speak about the ritual abuse and where she is now. Like another one of these amazing survivors has come through so much and has come to this amazing place within herself where she can share and be of a lot of assistance to those who are going through similar stuff, have been through it, etc. But anyway, before I bring Holly on, just what are we doing on the weekend? We are doing tomorrow Jerry Marzinski. Join me for Jerry Marzinski at the same time tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Central African time. We'll be talking about some of these amazing supernatural experiences. And then on Sunday, we have Patreon Book Club with Jesse. And Sunday, 6 o'clock, we have the Sunday Loop, where we're going to be speaking to some of the survivors. Sorry, my phone is just buzzing here. So let me just put it off. I always think I put it off, but I don't. Um, and we're going to be rerunning some of in fact, the earlier survivors from 5 years ago that we started speaking to on the channel. So that'll be Lisa Meister and Cindy, who will be replaying their stories again. Amazing stories. So please come and join us for the Sunday Loop at 6 o'clock again. Anyway, everybody, without any further ado, ta-da. Here she is. Holly Baglio, welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. How are you, beautiful lady?
I am doing very well. And Chantal, you are the best hostess with the mostest I ever met. Thank you so much for having me on your show, on your channel.
Well, I got to tell you, I could not be the mostest without you amazing guests. And I always say that guests and viewers, because without our incredible viewers, and it is just wonderful how, this channel has evolved over the past 5 years. Although we dealing with always the underbelly, because I'm a great believer that truth needs to surface, right? But just the people that have been on this journey with us, we've grown together. I mean, for sure. I know. I mean, I'm actually watching some of the earlier shows I did now that we're doing the reruns. I mean, my face never stops dropping on the floor when I hear these stories. But I mean, I remember how I felt 5 years ago hearing these things for the first time. It absolutely shook my world into a complete another dimension. And I'm happy to be here in this other dimension because this is where we get to expose the truth. So, Holly, thank you. And you are definitely one of the guests who make it the mostest. So, welcome. And I really look forward to hearing your story. And we're looking at also doing a couple of shows after tonight as well, because we can never ever fit all of this information into one show. So, over to you, beautiful lady. How are you? And welcome. And
I'm,
tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm humbled. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Holly Nancy Baglio, and I was born September 12th, 1974. I'm 50 years old right now. I'll turn 51 next month. I woke up 10 years ago to being used in these MK Ultra and Super Soldier projects stemming from Operation Paperclip. And when I realized what had happened to me, I lost my speaking abilities for 10 months. I could not talk. I was in a state of shock, to say the least. So I get how it, turns your world upside down and knocks you into a different dimension. But like you, I've gotten used to the other dimension now. So, but it all started for me. I was born into these projects. I was not sold in. My family did not do this to me or bring me in. I was born into these projects, meaning that Josef Mengele, the angel of death from World War II, he was one of the Nazis that was spared during Operation Paperclip. He went on to continue with his human and genetic experimentation, and he created me and the small group of children I was with. I was with a small group of children. All of us were created, meaning that gene splicing was used. So Josef Mengele took my mother and father, my biological parents' DNA, and the Rothschild who paid Mengele money to create me, and Anunnaki DNA, and gene spliced it all together. Rothschilds, the Rothschilds
Okay.
created
Can
a
you?
couple
Sorry,
children manner. I'm sorry.
I just want to ask you
Sorry.
before you. No, please don't be sorry. Um, Before you carry on with that, when we talk about this gene splicing, can you maybe go into a little bit more detail as to exactly what that entails? Because we've heard that happens in these projects. So when you say the Rothschilds, your parents' DNA, are you saying that each one gave a little bit of their DNA to create you?
Yes. I know that sounds
So,
crazy, but yes.
so it
I was
wasn't like a divine, like a conception between a man and woman having intercourse. There was
no,
none of that happening. Okay.
no, that's a thing. Like, my friends were conceived with a man and woman having sex, but I was not conceived that way. Josef Mengele created me with gene splicing, and I was implanted in my mother's womb. And the programming and training started right there for the MK Ultra projects, because while I was in her womb, I was traumatized. And when it came time for delivery, I was born breech. I was bent in half and my butt came out first. So right then and there, inside my mother's womb, I was traumatized, and they were trying to split my mind and fracture me. So from start to finish, I feel like a Rothschild science experiment. Did that kind of explain it or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it does. Um, and obviously, you were given birth naturally. It's not like you were born in an incubator or something. You were birthed naturally, like artificial insemination, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Both sides of my families, my and my father's side, the Baglios, they both had red flags. So if people are wondering what it's not like they forked over their DNA, but when you go to the hospital, they always take blood tests. So they're collecting your information there. My grandfather on the Baglio side, he was the administrator of, I think, Brooklyn Hospital in New York. And they had mafia connections. So on my, I kind of got off on a tangent, but on my father's side of the family, they had mafia connections. And there was a pre-arranged marriage waiting for me when I was 18 years old. However, I was raised outside the Baglio family, so my father never held me to that marriage. That's a red flag, is the mafia connections. On my mother's side of the family, my mother and I never had a good relationship, so still to this day, we do not talk. My father, Philip Samuel Ross Baglio, he's deceased. My mother's still alive, but like I said, we don't talk. She was absent from my life until she got remarried when I was 9 years old. And then she had my half sister when I was 11. But for all those years prior, she was not in my life. She dropped me on to her parents, and my mother's parents, William and Millie Gabery, raised me. So to me, they were my parents. Now, my grandfather, he was in World War II on a minesweeper ship. And minesweeper ships were used in the Philadelphia experiment. And in the Philadelphia experiment, I believe that's when they were trying out time travel, and they made a ship disappear and reappear in a different location 10 minutes earlier. So the minesweeper ships were used in those kind of experiments. I don't know that my grandfather was in that experiment precisely, but my grandfather would come home and tell my grandmother how the Navy would give him and the other soldiers LSD and marijuana just to see what it would do. And I believe that my grandfather was an unknowing candidate to these MK Ultra projects. He's deceased now. My grandfather died 6 days before his 66th birthday. And from that point on, that, heartbreak, that entered my life. It was really hard dealing with his death because it was like losing a father. So that in and of itself was very traumatizing. But so that's another red marker, because I believe that my grandfather was a part of these projects. And with things like Project Looking Glass, I believe the military knew I was coming and tracked me and kept tabs. So
explain that, please, Holly. I think that is something so important for people to understand, is the Project Looking Glass, is that how does the military actually track you before you even born? And this we see a lot. We're hearing about this a lot. So maybe you can explain that to us as well, please.
Okay. It's hard to say what it was like through the actual Project Looking Glass, going through it. I think at first I was taking it like a joke, but I believe they strap you down into a seat and they show you two different outcomes of where your life can go. It's not comfortable at all to be strapped down and to have to go through these projects. So I don't mean to glamorize it in any capacity. My memories are choppy and distorted, but they do come back clearer as time. However, I had the flash flood of memories come back when I was about 39 years old, turning 40. I had used cannabis to come off my prescription medications and to live a better way of life. And Heavenly Abba told me, Holly, I made the marijuana plant, go use it. And it turns out it's a seed-bearing plant. But when I used the medicinal cannabis, Well, it was a twofold whammy, because coming off the prescriptions, that was keeping me dumbed down and disconnected from the spirit realm, like spirituality, my spirit side. And it was keeping my dreams and visions dumbed down. It was keeping my memories dulled and basically non existent. So once I came off those prescriptions, that was a load off. But then the cannabis, I think, broke down the MK Ultra programming and hypnosis. But also a big thing was the electric shock therapy, I think, wore off, and you do get your memories back. And I think that's what happened to me. So between the use of the cannabis and the programming wearing off and wearing down, I had a flash flood of memories come back. And that's when I lost my speaking abilities for 10 months, because it was overwhelming, overbearing. And I didn't know who to go to, who to turn to, or anything else, because my friends didn't know anything about it. The churches certainly didn't know anything about it. So I came online, and my recovery's up online since 2014. But I kind of got off on a tangent, and I apologize.
No, please
I
don't
forget
apologize.
where I left off.
No, it's really no problem. What we're going to be doing anyway, just today, is we're going to be just talking about, incidents, or kind of giving our viewers an outline. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be going deeper into your story and obviously the projects you were involved in. So please don't worry about getting off on a tangent. But what I do find interesting is, if you're saying, I want to just kind of reverse back to your beginning. You were created, but you were naturally given birth. So, who were your handlers and abusers? Not your parents, I don't think, right?
No,
So, how did that happen for you? And when did they start taking you into these projects and programs and stuff like that?
they started taking me right from the beginning, because all my life I have two sets of memories. One set in this normal
Right.
life that we're living, and a second set from the deep underground military bases, the DUMBs. I remember as a kid, black operations coming in to take me out of the house, as well as bring me back before the sun came up, or they would get me at school. Um, if I was gone for an extended amount of time, I was told that there was a clone left in my place. But as far as my handlers and programmers, Josef Mengele was one of them. I believe Douglas Riggs was another. Now, when I was in Montauk, hands switched. I remember, Montauk was Al Bielek and Preston Nichols. I remember begging for my life from Preston. But there's a couple other programmers out there, but I won't say their name publicly, because I don't want them to come after me or have any reason to come after me. I worry for my life. And private is a different story. I'll open up a little bit more, but it was Mengele, and there was one programmer we had. I called him Mike, Mike, and he brought me into, I remember him bringing me into a secret society. In the past, I had gotten confused. I confused my programmer with another super soldier, another child, grown adult now, that had gone through the projects. It just seems like everybody has dark hair and dark eyes and wears black. So apologize for that as things do become clearer. But it was the programmer, whether it was Josef Mengele or the next programmer that had me, they were the ones to bring me into all of that. Because Mengele, people talk about Jack Parsons opening up a portal in the desert and what a sorcerer he was. Well, Mengele was also a sorcerer, but to me, it felt like he could open up a portal inside your body. So he was practicing all of that magic where it was, he'd use sex and blood and death in his rituals, or also in his mind control programming. So he wasn't just sacrificing to his deity and calling, summoning these powers, but he was involving us children while he did it. Or he incorporated that into fracturing our minds, if that makes sense. For instance, the very secret society, or one of the very secret societies that put together human hunting parties, was the very one that I was brought into once I was older. I had stuff over Josef Mengele. Josef Mengele, he was nice to me, but he was also the one to put me through everything. When I was a small child, I think about 6 years old, they had us up in Nelson, Canada, and Majestic 12 did a child rescue mission, but it wasn't like a rescue mission where the kids get to go home. It was just that Majestic 12 wanted us and wanted to take us from the faction of the military that had us. And so again, it would depend what project I was on as to who was handling me. Like, because I was born into these projects, so Mengele created me, but I went through not only Project Looking Glass, but there's a MK Ultra project for every letter of the Greek alphabet. There's Alpha. I went through Beta. The equivalent to Project Beta would be what you guys call Monarch. I went through Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma. I'm from Project IBIS, Mannequin, Looking Glass, and Project Seagate, where we actually walk through the gate. But I don't want to get off track. I kind of want to focus on what they were doing to us in the DUMBs. Sorry. Yeah. Did I answer the question? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what for me was important is obviously born as the spliced child, you were obviously their project and you were their property, because we know that these guys treat you as such. So at what age did they start grooming you? I mean, was it instant from when you were born, or did they allow you a few years with your parents and then did he come fetch you? At what age were you being groomed to participate in these things?
From what I gathered, I'm fully reintegrated. Mengele built in 169 altars, but now Heavenly Abba, Yahuwah, has patched me all up. I think they broke me right when I was born. They tampered with me. I think they tampered with me when I was a year and a half old. Real tiny thing. But it really did not start until I was about 3 years old. And when I was 3 years old, that's when everything took a turn. And my biological mother, had gotten mad at my grandma and papa. She always used me as a pawn. She got mad at them and she took off from New Jersey to fly out to San Antonio, Texas to live. And she took me with her. And I think, I remember spending about a week with my cousins that lived in Texas at the time. My mother was just dropping me on them to babysit me. But then the rest of the time that I was in San Antonio, Texas, it was about 3 months. The rest of the time, all I remember is the DUMBs, deep underground military bases out in Texas.
Right.
They, that the electrocutions, I had, my mind's going in two different places. I'll finish with Texas. The only other memory of Texas I have is when Grandma and Papa flew to Texas to come get me. And the night they stayed over, I gave Papa my baby pillow to sleep with because he had to sleep on the floor. I remember them flying back on Eastern Airlines because the pilot gave me some pin, but everybody on the plane had cowboy hats on because I guess there was a Dallas cowboy sporting event. But otherwise, all I remember otherwise, and that was a relief when Grandma and Papa came to get me because then that stuff stopped for a little bit. But also, I was attached to my grandparents. In the dumps, in this one memory, it seemed like they had a warehouse. Like if you went into like your Walmart superstore and you took out the aisles of products and replaced it with cages, this place just seemed like a huge warehouse of cages filled with kids, 5 to 10 kids each. And they would flip the switch and electrocute us over and over. And I remember when they would do it, electrocute us, a bunch of the other cages started to get quiet until it was just like there was only movement in a couple of cages. But out of this whole warehouse, there was only movement in my cage and a couple other ones. All the other kids were dead. And from there, that's when I guess they were looking for whoever survived. But from there on, I remember my labs. It may sound fantastical, but in the DUMBs, there's different alien species, but also some of your elite families. They're not all human, like Queen Elizabeth. That they're not all human. They shapeshift into these, for lack of better terms, a T-Rex dinosaur with the beady eyes and snout and sharp teeth, fat legs and a fat tail. And I remember this T-Rex looking dinosaur thing, big cape on too, like a royal cape that a queen or king would wear. It came walking down the aisle and stood in front and came to the front of my cage. And it was just me and a little boy left. The other kids in the cage were dead. And that little boy, that blonde-haired boy, he put his hand on mine and he said, "Holly, bow your head like the slaves did to the Egyptians, bow." So I bowed my head, and this reptilian-looking thing looked down into the cage and asked me, "Why are you still alive?" I said, "I don't know. Some of the pain is gone, though, but it still hurts." And then this thing said to me, "Why are you scared?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Are you scared of me?" And yes, I am. I just admitted flat out, yes, I'm scared of you. Well, this thing took me out of the cage and it brought me into another area of the dumb where it was like a half wall, half glass. And it brought me into this room. So you could still see what this thing was doing because the wall was half glass. And I believe it was Queen Elizabeth or one of her clan proceeded to rape me in front of the other kids left alive in those cages. Thing took me and threw me across the wall. And I remember I hit my head so hard on the wall and the floor when I fell that my head started bleeding. And one of the other lab coats came to pick me up off the floor, and that T-Rex looking dinosaur thing screamed, "No, Leave her there. And it marched out into the warehouse area where the other cages were, and it grabbed another child, and it repeated the process with the other children. So I think that was in Texas, in those deep underground military bases.
I
The My
can't
Lab.
even begin. Sorry, I cannot even begin to wrap my head around the trauma that must create for a child. And as Leanne says, I am the Lizard King. I can do anything. I mean, that is just wow, 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 wow. Um, so I'm thinking then when they were obviously putting the kids in cages, right, and shocking, electrocuting you, they were seeing which ones would survive. Obviously, they were requiring it for some type of experiment or the other, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, because then from there, the My Labs, just everything really started from there. And my family told me that my mother had me in Texas for 3 months. But so the My Lab, as fantastical as it sounds, I wish I remembered this one woman's name, because then when I say witch, you would have like the perfect imagery to go with it. They had a witch in the dump. There's a famous woman, current day, and I forget her name, but she's really evil. I think she's in the fashion industry. And the outfits she wears will have like these really pokey shoulders, and she puts her makeup on like she's a demon, and her fingers are black, and she's got black nails, and she's a really famous woman. Her husband looks like Frankenstein. I wish I could remember this woman's name. If I do, I'll come back and let you know. But if you knew who I was talking about, you'd say that's the perfect imagery, because this famous woman in real life, she's a witch. Anyway, she dresses like a demon. Anyway, sorry for that.
I can't
But
think. No, I can't think. Don't know the not one of the uh Donatella, what is her name? That's the one that she's had so much plastic surgery, that one.
no, not that one. No, not that one though, right? No, this woman, she just dresses evil, looks evil, and I think she's into Luciferianism or Satanism. But
Michelle LeMay. Michelle LeMay.
Lammy, is that it?
Lammy.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
She's got a husband, and he's just as ugly as her. Yeah, I don't mean to. All right, we'll take her, because she always pops in my head when I say witch. But in the Dumbs, they had a witch, and a real witch. But my memory's choppy, but that Michelle Lammy kind of reminds me of what I saw in the Dumbs. I was brought into a My Lab, and I was strapped into a chair. She injected black goo into me, and I believe that black goo was alien or Anunnaki DNA, and it's supposed to either kill you or make you go insane. I'm still here, so I guess I'm insane. But Heavenly Abbas
when this
healed
happened?
me of that. No, I'm kidding. But the My Labs were brutal. And this witch, I know it's going to sound disgusting, but this witch, she was just so evil. I remember her cutting open her stomach, her own stomach, laughing. She cut off a piece of her heart and ate it. And she was laughing the whole time, like it didn't even bother her. On the walls of this My Lab were jars, and in the jars were what look like fetuses, babies, like, I don't know, like babies from a womb, but instead they're in a jar. Um, but there were other things. It looked like different hybrids, different creations, like mixtures of human plus something else like an alien or animal. And those things in the jar were aware. I remember them being aware, seeing what was happening with us kids strapped down to the chair. So for those things in the jar, when they come out of the jar, I'm worried because they're used to seeing trauma and torture and it being normal. But they had babies. I don't know how else to explain it, but to say babies in the jar. But that the witch, she just did the most evil things to us. And my memory's absolutely fuzzy when I'm sitting here now telling you what I remember. So basically what that is at the time in the dumps that I was going through it, this is as much as I remember. And then it stops because I was scared. The daylights were scared out of me. But my memory stops, and that's when an altar comes in. And that, if that explains a little bit why it's choppy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for total recall of my memories. I would really, really like that. But so
I'm
Texas
sure it'll happen.
I'm sorry.
I said, I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now that I know I'm not going to lose my speaking ability since I got through all of this. But the current memories that are becoming clearer, to be honest, they're brutal. They're of me being forced to partake in ingesting adrenochrome or organs from a sacrifice that just happened because they were binding me to silence, or I was programmed with 169 altars. So it was not only that I could be used for sex, I was used as a spy. I was used as a soldier. I was used as an assassin. So there were many different, they created a lot of altars in me to fulfill a lot of different roles.
So I would imagine, I would imagine that part of them splicing the DNA is that they would have obviously, in my mind, selected the best DNA from whoever they were collecting DNA from, right? To be this completely 100% well-rounded super soldier who could do anything and pretty much withstand anything. So I would imagine you just for that reason, you yourself, and I'm sure that's why they would have put you against, like, with kids that weren't spliced, like, call them normal kids. Okay, I don't think anything's normal in this environment, but to kind of compare you to the normal human DNA. So it's like they were, wow, this is wild.
It is. I did forget a couple of things. I'm glad that we're spending some time on my background because I just jotted down a couple of notes. Being a super soldier, I was born into these projects. So Josef Mengele used different. But once I was born, they did surgically enhance us children, and I've been chipped. In addition to that, mind control. So there's a memory I have that took me.
How were you surgically enhanced as kids?
I have this memory of floating above my body while 3 doctors, well, I should say programmers, standing over me, but behind them were these tall, dark powers guiding the doctors what to do. And I've tried to find out what exactly they've done, but I cannot confirm it. And anytime I try to look up documents, I have a terrible time of doing so. But I heard that they did different things to strengthen our bones, but also when they were operating on me and I was hovering above my body, it looked like they were doing something to my organs. Um, I other super soldiers have said that they did something with diamond and gold to strengthen our bones, but also to do something to our organs so we can go for longer times with that, for a longer period of time without food and still keep functioning. But also, personally, I think it could be a part of the trauma and torture itself, because they know that I would have been hovering above my body. There's ways that they can pull you out of your body, pull you out of your body. So it's an out of body experience. And that could have been a part of the mind control, was to see that I'm being operated on by a bunch of programmers I don't trust, and I'm in their hands, and anything can happen, and they're doing whatever they want to me, and there's nobody to stop them. That's it. So I don't know if that really explains it, but as far as being chipped, what I mean is they put like a chip, an implant in us. Like one time, and I remember this too because it hurt for a week. It felt like I was mangled by Hulk Hogan, but for real. But black operations came into my house and took me out, and they put an implant in the back of my neck, but it's up under my skull inside. And they tried to fake it like it was an alien invasion, and like little gray aliens gave me that chip, but it was really black operations. It was human beings faking being those little aliens.
Right.
Now, yeah, so I didn't mean to get off on a tangent there, but the surgical the surgical enhancements, I'm still looking up as to know exactly what happened, what exactly they did. And
I think if you know what's incredible, again, just sort of going back there and what you were saying about being operated on, and while you were talking, I was actually going to ask you, did they not realize that you were able to watch them? Because to me, they would know that, right? So it did seem to me that that could be part of their, as you say, torture, mind control, that while you're watching them operate on your body, putting who knows what in, and you have no power to do anything. It's like it's not even your body. I mean, that in itself, just that must be crazy. Never mind the effect that whatever the operation was supposed to have or is going to have takes effect after that. I mean, this torture and this torment is so multi layered. This, I mean, it's the more I hear these stories from people like you, Holly, I can see that they are so skilled at absolute pain and torture on every level. There's nothing that they'll miss out on. They know exactly what to do, how to do it, how long to do it, to get the best out of the experiment for themselves. For themselves.
yes,
Wow.
yes. one thing, getting back to the gene splicing, when these elongated skulls and giant's bones with the 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, when they're found inside their bones, there's still viable tissue. So that's another way that the scientists can get their hands on alien DNA, is right through these bones. And it's, I don't mean to put a twist, like add to it, but the Smithsonian always swoops in and takes the bones quickly whenever anything's found, and then nobody ever sees the bones anymore. So there's still viable tissue inside the bones that they can then take and reanimate. They have this knowledge. I do believe that Josef Mengele was successful at age extension, as well as back breeding to the alien race. And yeah, definitely for educational purposes.
Thank you, girl. We're just educating this, right?
Yeah, yes.
No judgment here. We're just educating.
Yeah, Fair Use Act and disclosure.
Right.
So, but I think that, you know, the Rothschilds tamper with stuff. You know, typically we play with Barbie dolls and Ken dolls, but the Rothschilds play with people. But there's something to do with the genetics and DNA. Also, when I was a small kid, they had me at Area 51. I believe Bob Lazar and everything he says that he worked on. I believe him. I have nothing against him. I just feel like he's the cover story for what really goes on there. Because when I was a young kid, they took me and 3 other little boys, and they locked us in army barracks. And they set off a bomb or a nuke, I don't know, but they set something off. And I just remember being in this barrack, and the windows were rectangle and high up. And I just remember they put us, a few of us or a bunch of us kids in this army barrack. And I remember all of a sudden the sky turning orange and red. And I got so scared. And all I could do was call out to Heavenly Abba. I was so mad because we were tricked and we were locked in the army barrack thing. We could not get out. And I just remember the kid to the side of me. He stood up and his teeth just fell out, and he was shaking. There was another kid next to me that was frozen in place, and it just looked like he was melting. The next time I come to the next memory, my memory stops there. But the next memory I have after that is being inside what looked like a hospital facility, being in like a hospital room, I should say. There were no windows, so it looked like we were in a hospital. And I was in a plastic bubble, and so were the other kids. And I remember I had trouble breathing, and I reached in my mouth and I pulled out what I thought were growths or sores in my mouth, blocking my ability to breathe. My memories are fuzzy, so I do test myself, and I wonder if maybe they didn't have me on a breathing tube, but I believe that it was these growths that I had to pull. But they were testing radiation on us. So whatever gene splicing whatever genes Mengele spliced together, they were testing all sorts of things on my DNA and seeing if I could if I could survive it. And again, I wasn't the only created human being or engineered human being. There were other kids. And it's not just the Rothschilds that are involved, but that's who paid Mengele money to create me. Now, the Rothschild that paid Mengele to create me, it gets even worse. As a young girl, technically that would be being my father if Rothschild, David Rene Rothschild, I should say David Girl Rothschild, because that's what my altar told me. That's who my altar told me did this to me. And the reason why I say David Girl Rothschild is because in America, Renee is a girl's name, but in the UK, Renee's a boy's name. And that name's always stuck out to me. But when I got older, the same Rothschild that gave up his DNA was the same Rothschild who came along to impregnate me. And I remember being chained to my foot, and the chain was nailed down to the floor. And they literally gave me a pot to pee in. And I remember I don't even want to say their names. I'm sorry. But I just said their names. But that Rothschild and his wife, you know, the one that wears that deer head, I think, in the pictures, she was sitting there mocking me, saying, oh, you think you're the real wife, but you're not. He loves me. He cares about me. You're nothing. You're pathetic. And meanwhile, I'm pregnant with his child. And in this memory, I was on the floor shining both of their shoes. When it came time to give birth, it was a son, but immediately upon delivery, they took the child and sacrificed it. And at that point, I was completely broken. And at that point, what happened internally was I literally took myself and locked myself away in a hidden closet inside my mind, literally. So from that point on, whatever I was ordered to do or forced to do, I was already broken. So they sliced. I tried to grab a knife. I tried to fight, but I didn't stand a chance. They sacrificed my baby upon birth. So I'm not a fan of the Rothschilds. Excuse me. I didn't mean to, show emotion.
I'm so sorry. You know, these stories never get easier to hear. And I just want to say, we're just sending you so much love. The whole chat is supporting you. I cannot even begin to imagine what that must feel like. And if I could, I'd give you the biggest hug ever.
I would accept
I'm sending you one.
Thank you so much. And I send my finest prayers and love right back to you and the beautiful, fine folks in your chat room. Thank you so much again for having me. I really appreciate it. So,
are you okay? Are we good?
We're good to go.
Are you okay?
I am. Okay. I am honestly fine. Honestly, once in a while, my own test, because I actually hear myself, but most of the time, I'm completely comfortable to give it. You know, I feel like this is the way I get to go back for the children still locked in a cage. So is by giving my testimony, at least the ones that have died and the ones still locked in a cage. They're remembered. They have some sort of voice and somebody out there that's thinking about them. So this actually kind of gives me a lot of peace. And also, you guys are awake and aware to what's going on. I was about 18, 19 years old, maybe about 20. And I remember I started to wake up from these projects. But when I did, I went off seeking my savior. I went off seeking God, seeking my creator. I wanted to find God, and I thought I had found him. And I did give my faith to YAHUSHA, which is the Hebrew name for Jesus. But anyway, at that time, I thought I was safe. And the memories started to the memories started to come back right then and there. And I remember telling my boyfriend and his Christian family at the time, which was new to me, as well as the pastor at the church. I remember saying, listen, I have these memories, or I'm having these dreams at night. That's what it was. I'm having these nightmares at night. And they're of kids in a cage. And we're all getting electrocuted over and over. And we're being brutalized. And the thing is I do not think that it's in my mind, because we're real little, like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. But then those same kids, I have other memories of where they're, now they're in their late teens now. Now they're like 17, 18, 19. So I think they're memories and not just nightmares. And at the time, the church, as well as them, told me, oh, well, you have Jesus now. He'll just fix everything. And brushed off. I was not taught spiritual warfare and how to protect myself. But anyway, since I was brushed off and they basically said, oh, it's all in your head. It's just nightmares. It's nothing. Go to a counselor. Go to a doctor. And my biological mother was the same way. She'd always tell me to go to a doctor, take a pill, and get a prescription, and it'll be fine. But it was never fine. So because I was received like that by everybody at the time, I just wound up going right back to sleep and continuing on. I just went, I guess, I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it's just that they didn't listen. So there was nothing left for me to do but continue on being what I was being, or continue on. There was no way to get out. Nobody listened. So the fact that I can sit here and talk to you in your chat room and you guys know exactly what's going on is such a huge relief. It's such a huge relief, because So I'm the one that should be thanking you and your chat room for letting me give you my testimony, so that way we don't forget, what goes on with our children, So,
we hear so much of this, and it just highlights to me this morning my interview I did with Kerry Saint of Australia, who's a great advocate for the forced adoptions and kids stolen from their mothers, single teenage mothers. Just, guys, I want to encourage you to please go and watch that interview. It's the Irish, we actually called it the Irish Holocaust or something like that. Because at these baby homes, Tamau or something, I can't remember offhand. As recently as 1975, they found around just under 800 babies buried in a children's home, where they would take the mothers and have them have babies, keep the mothers there. These babies were buried in the sewer. They've just been left there. Like 800 of them. And that's just in the one area. And how just the government refuses. It's now going to cost $13 million to unearth that. But they're starting, guys. They're starting now in 2025 to actually unearth that. So these things are starting to be unearthed. Please watch that interview. If one of the mods can just pop it up here, please. With Kerry Saint this morning that I had speaking about the children. And it's not just the children that are bred for these programs, in the breeder programs, the children that are bred for sacrifice. It's the kids that are kidnapped. It's the hierarchy kids. It's these kids that have been taken into the, these horrific projects, turned into some weird concoction of whatever they choose to inject for their own benefit, for their own gain. I mean, that's just shocking. That's just shocking. But yeah, I think it is time for the children now. So, Holly, I fully agree with you that it really, really, really is time for the children. And that people pay attention to that. And thank you, obviously, for everything you're doing right now and coming forward. Okay, is this the interview, Joanne? Yeah, I think that's the interview that we did with Kerry Saint this morning. So please, guys, go and watch that, and just
I definitely
see
will.
what that's
I'll share
about
it.
as well. Yeah,
Definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, because I'll be honest.
Carry on. Sorry, I know we've got a lag. We've always got a lag, so I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Carry on.
No, I got to be honest with you, Chantal. I've wanted to do an interview like this with you for many years now. I feel so barocked, blessed that like we're here right now, because I'm so happy. This is a prayer come true. I've been wanting to be able to interview you with years. I really appreciate it. I really like your work, and I think you're a beautiful woman. And I feel really blessed to be here with you. So thank you. As well as
with the risk of with the risk of sounding like we belong to the Mutual Appreciation Society, yeah. Which I know we all do, but thank you. I really appreciate that. And no. All I'm saying is that for me, to hear you guys talk, and for me to have the chat room and the viewers who are over the years, is what I was saying earlier on. You guys have opened up. You've traveled with me. You've journeyed with me. You've watched our survivors. It's such a privilege to actually sit and interview you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I cannot imagine how shit your life must have been. And there's no other word to put it, and that's putting it mildly. I feel blessed every day to have had the childhood that I did with the parents that I have, so that I can actually sit here as a stable presence and interview people like yourself. For me, that's what I understand we're doing here. And for everyone else who is a stable presence for our viewers, and not our viewers, our guests, who sometimes really, I can imagine to tell a story like that internationally and publicly is never, ever easy. So bless you and thank you. And if there's anything you would like to maybe say just in ending off, but we will be having you back same time next week, guys. Holly's going to be coming on for a while. She's going to be sharing a lot of her stories, the details of her story. And I feel very blessed that you are on our channel. And you all can see Holly's, let me just get your thingamabob up. I think, here we go. Holly's tickers up. And if you guys want to follow her and just go and check her out, you want to chat to her. And Joanne, thank you so much again. You're such a beautiful woman.
I just want to.
Australians. Yeah, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Holly, is there anything you want to say just in closing off for us this evening?
Well, I'm not in the chat room typing because if I were paying attention to the chat room, I would be so distracted. And I already get off on tangents as it is. So I just wanted to say, please excuse me for not being in the chat room and having no idea. But it's nice to meet you, Joanne Breeze. I'm currently in the process of still watching The Greatest Story Never Told about Adolf Hitler and your testimony. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming forward and talking about those topics, because they're not easy. They're not easy topics at all.
Yeah.
But thank you. And thank you again, Chantal. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And guys, I will see you back tomorrow, Jerry Marzinski. That should be fun. I always love having Jerry. You always see whenever I mention Jerry's name, I start laughing. He's hilarious. He always forgets everything. I love it. And then on Sunday, we have, of course, a Patreon book club with Jesse, 3 o'clock. And then again, 6 o'clock, we've got our Sunday loop where we're going to be replaying our earliest survivors on the channel. Guys, our 5-year anniversary is coming up soon. It's amazing. Can you believe it? It feels like just yesterday we started. And I was looking at the earlier shows of myself and I went, oh my goodness. My face, I keep saying my face, I'm like, it's just not able to believe. But it's really been fantastic. And it's been such an amazing 5-year journey. I never ever thought that starting Aquarius Rising Africa, when we didn't, was after I watched one of JC's interviews, or first interviews with David Zublik. And I contacted her and I said, come, you got to talk to me, babe. And she did. And that was amazing. Oh my goodness, here my camera's playing silly buggers again. Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to switch it off. So yeah, and here we are 5 years later. It's amazing. It's incredible. And thank you so, so much for everybody who's joined us on this journey. And I know sometimes, yeah, we all have different outlooks and different opinions on things. And what I really love is that we can actually have our different opinions and still hang out and have fun with each other.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. I definitely look forward to seeing you soon. And yeah, I don't know what's happened to my camera now. I really did want to just like pop in and say hi or bye. Let me just see. Maybe it's back on again now. I don't know. Wait. I'm back. Look, there I am. Bye, me. Okay, bye, me. Thank you, everybody. Take care. God bless. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye.